I think we're going to get this. All right. Good seeing you, Herb.
Where's oh, there you are.
Are you still there?
The same as the seat.
There you go. But you're still there?
I haven't tried yet, not yet. All right, say hello someday.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes? All right. Welcome to Peconic Landing. It's our pleasure to continue in our tradition of inviting town officials here to speak to the state of our town. So with that, here's Krupski, who is the supervisor for the town of Southold.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. When I start, I'd like to. When I start, I'd like to. All right, try that. We'll make sure Lisa thinks I'm being heard by everyone. No. Can't hear you.
Can you raise it up more?
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to recognize the elected officials that are here tonight. We've got the town board members, Alexis Seuss, Brian Mealy, Ann Smith, Nick Krupski, Southold Town Trustee, Bill Flinter, Southold Town Assessor, and Margaret Steinbugler, who is on the ZBA. So. I'd like to start by thanking Bob Siren and everyone here at Peconic Landing for their generosity in hosting this event. I feel honored in my 41st year as a public servant serving Southold Town to address you in this capacity. I have received reports from the town's departments prepared by the dedicated people who run them. Good, committed people who keep the town operating smoothly. Copies of the reports are all available tonight in the handouts, and of course will be part of the public record. Last year I highlighted a few hot topics. This year, the list is much longer. That's because things that need to be done are being addressed, because good ideas from town employees and residents are being implemented, because items that require real work and decisions are being addressed, and because we have truly dedicated employees who love Southold town and working with wonderful residents who care about maintaining our quality of life. Security leads the list this year with a cyber incident that we experienced on the Monday before Thanksgiving. It was a Monday morning, and Lloyd Reisenberg came into my office where I was meeting with newly elected Alexis Seuss. He said, "We've got a problem, a real problem." Now, Lloyd was retiring at the end of the year, and we had just hired Liam Cielo to work with Zach Tomaszewski in the IT department. The events of the following weeks demonstrate the dedication of our town employees. We did have a real problem that day, and it was a major cyber incident. The IT department shut down our systems, preventing data loss and minimizing the damage. The police department, thanks to the leadership of Chief Stephen Grattan, got help from partners in both Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, thank you Errol Toulon, as well as Riverhead Town Police Department, thank you Chief Frost. The other town departments that remained open during the breach, the landfill never closed during regular hours, thank you to Nick Krupski, Solid Waste Coordinator, and his dedicated staff. Our partners stepped in. Suffolk County Office of Emergency Management, Suffolk County FRES, New York State Court System, Suffolk County IT, providing guidance, direction, and equipment. All town departments stepped up to serve the public without the resources they usually rely on. When our doors closed on Wednesday afternoon for Thanksgiving, the IT department, Lieutenant Bobby Haas, Eric Haas, Director of DPW, and others were there every day during the break, working to restore our systems. All town departments worked to serve the public under difficult conditions until the system was rebuilt and secured. My office, Lawrence Standish, Michelle Tomaszewski, Gwen Schroeder, and Andrea Sullivan all worked as a central office to coordinate efforts to allow the IT department to work without interruption. This ties into increased awareness of cybersecurity threats and future trainings that will help us in the future. Staying with public safety, we should be very proud of our police department. They have been on a multi-year journey to achieve accreditation from New York State, achieving that on June 4th. This shows in an official way what we already know, that our police department is professional and properly trained. In addition to this effort, plus fielding an astonishing 19,938 calls for service, it's roughly 54 calls per day. They coordinated with many different departments, including the building department, IT, planning, highway, Department of Public Works, engineering, and my office, in completing the Suffolk County Hazard Mitigation Plan. They have been, as of this year, running the Emergency Management Committee, which is my office, the Highway Department, Solid Waste, Department of Public Works, Human Resource Center, IT, Community Liaison, and volunteers such as Don Fisher, who help us manage and train shelter volunteers. We work with the committees, civic groups, Suffolk County, and state agencies in the event of an emergency to keep residents and guests safe. Outreach is ongoing, so our community knows what resources are available and what action to take in a man-made or natural event. A lot of work goes into this. Please visit the town's website for information. Continuing on the topic of security, I initiated a camera system outside town buildings in response to concerns about employee and public safety. The police department and Department of Public Works and I met with Homeland Security to review safety protocols at our buildings, which resulted in a buzzer system being installed in the town hall annex. This building houses 8 departments, and the buzzer system ensures that the public has safe, controlled access to those areas. When the town purchased the old bank building on the corner of Youngs Avenue, it needed a lot of things. When a driver knocked over a telephone pole on County Road 48 in Southold, power was out throughout the town, including what is known as the town hall annex. 8 departments and the public they serve had no power, no lights, no computers. My question was, how do we correct this? Working with the town engineer, the Department of Public Works, and the government liaison, we rerouted some residual ARPA funds to ensure public safety and continuation of services. Last year, I asked the Department of Public Works to create a meeting space in the basement of the Town Hall Annex as an option for committees, boards, and general out-of-office use. In February, a water pipe burst in the meeting hall located in Town Hall. The basement space in the annex was placed into service, and the IT department set up an excellent sound and Zoom system to ensure continued public access. They also set up a system in the auditorium at Peconic Lane Community Center, allowing that space to be used by the Justice Court, Town Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning Board, and Board of Trustees. This effort was coordinated by my office, the Department of Public Works, and the Recreation Department, as meetings were moved around for months to accommodate the public. Thanks to that effort, we now have 2 additional meeting spaces that are available for official use. The town board made an important decision this year to shift the focus of the 4-year zoning update from trying to fix everything to instead listen to the community and focus on housing. We now have a dedicated housing coordinator directed by the town board who works with the planning departments, our town attorneys, the government liaison, my office, and other relevant town departments to implement the town's housing plan. Many of the old recommendations to the consultant that was hired 4 years ago have been set aside, and we have taken control over this effort. On a parallel track, we have adopted an amendment to the cell tower code, hired a consultant, and collaborated with other neighboring municipalities to reduce those associated costs. The consultant produced a map and narrative that supported a code change, allowing for cell towers to be constructed at appropriate heights and in suitable locations, ensuring reliable cell service for our residents. The current housing effort is being led by Councilwoman Seuss and Councilwoman Smith, who have worked closely with the Housing Advisory Commission on the housing plan. Thank you to Councilwoman Jill Doherty for all her past efforts in housing. They guided the transition of the Housing Advisory Commission into the Community Housing Advisory Board, and continue to coordinate with all departments on this effort. We also retained an outside attorney with housing expertise to assist with all related legal matters. Workforce housing remains a significant priority for the town. The change in direction for the housing update was subject to public debate and scrutiny. It was not undertaken lightly. Another initiative progressing on a parallel track is the regulation of short-term rentals. This has been a multi-year approach being coordinated with the assistance of Deputy Supervisor John Stipe. We have convened code committees, held internal meetings, and consulted with the New York State Association of Towns to ensure the code we ultimately adopt will be both enforceable and meaningful. The town board, over the objections of Suffolk County, extended the battery energy storage moratorium for 1 year. This land use, not currently allowed in code, remains under scrutiny as state revises the guidance. In land preservation, this is something that the town has embraced for generations. Access to public space and beach access has been a historic land use, fortunately protecting the ability of the residents to boat and swim. In the 1970s, the Suffolk County Farmland Preservation Program started, and the town followed suit, and a decade later with multiple bonds passed by the public to preserve our viable and productive farmland in perpetuity for future generations. While the current CPF law allows for other uses other than farmland and open space preservation, these remain the focus of the program. When you preserve farmland, this land stays in private hands. There is no demand for town services. It does recharge the aquifer all year long, and most of the year, there's no noise or light pollution. The benefit of open space preservation including wildlife habitat protection, aquifer recharge, and public recreation. In the past, Suffolk County has been a great partner in supporting our efforts. Right now, our plan is being updated to include water quality projects in compliance with the amendments to Down Code 64E. We are part of the Peconic Bay Regional Advisory Committee and the Regional Council that is working to update the rules regarding the changes. Please go to the town's website and review our protected lands map. The progress made in 50 years is very encouraging. The town hosted an environmental expo and repair cafe this spring. This is a collaborative effort supported by Councilman Brian Mealy with the Conservation Advisory Council, Southold Town Landfill, the North Fork Environmental Council, and 10 other partners. Special thanks to the Yeti, which is a youth initiative, for their participation and enthusiastic support. It was a great success, and planning is already underway for the second annual event. One issue that has become increasingly significant this year is the amount of garbage being left and dumped at our beaches, road ends, and parks. Throughout the summer, I received many complaints from the public, so I asked Dan Goodwin, our highway superintendent, and Eric Haas, director of public works, for an analysis of the manpower, equipment, and volume of garbage collected. As for those who say you can't put a price tag on a clean beach, they were wrong. We are spending over $90,000 per year on garbage pickup alone. Should we be in the garbage business? Keeping our parks and beaches clean is an important effort, but this issue needs attention and a real community discussion. This ties into George Sullivan Beach, the old town beach in Southold. A year and a half ago, the Department of Public Works and Highway Department put beach-compatible sand at the edge of the parking lot, spreading it on the beach just before Memorial Day. That sand lasted on the beach for one day. It was gone. Beach nourishment is a political answer. It is not a way to deal with Mother Nature. That same year, the government liaison, Department of Public Works and Highway Department, with the blessing of the Board of Trustees, applied for a grant for technical assistance to restore the dune systems and planting. That grant was not awarded. If it had been, that effort all would have disappeared. We have since reapplied and were selected for a grant for a different project, likely using heavier materials. As Suffolk County legislator, I included the section of County Road 48 in the county's coastal resiliency plan. I have been appealing to both County Executive Ed Romaine and First District Legislator Greg Krupski to raise the road for public safety reasons. I also organized an on-site visit this spring with the Suffolk County Commissioner Charlie Bartha of DPW, Southold Town Highway Department, Southold Town Board of Trustees, New York State DEC, and a representative from Congressman Lalota's office to discuss options for raising both the road and the parking lot in one project. Additionally, I met on site with Senator Gillibrand's team to discuss local erosion concerns at 3 town beaches and possibly acquiring federal aid to elevate the roadway. Last year, the town participated in a community resiliency program led by the Nature Conservancy. This effort was specific to Fisher's Island and led by Justice Louisa Evans, myself, and Gwen Schroeder, government liaison. Representing the town was the Highway Department, the Police Department, and the Planning Department. From Fisher's Island, 12 people attended, representing first responders, civic, and special tax districts, including now Justice Kate Stevens. That was a productive effort in community building and awareness in response to man-made and natural events and challenges. The exercise could be duplicated elsewhere, or it could be used as a reference for any community. On a positive note, Dan Goodwin and I meet every year with a representative from PSE&G. This is in part storm resiliency and part coordination on tree trimming and staging for a storm event. Last year, I asked about the large power lines running west to east throughout the town and whether unused lines could be removed. At this year's meeting, I was told that, based on my suggestion, they will remove all of the unused poles beginning at the end of this year. This was very good news for the town and represents a great cooperative effort with the utility. I would like to highlight one department of elected officials that has truly stepped up this year. Bill Flinter has been on the job for 2 years when the very capable assessors and seasoned office staff left at the same time. Working together with both newly elected assessors, Ken Polywater and Leah Sullivan, and the highly skilled existing staff, he organized the office so that all of the complicated work they perform with an ever-changing environment and regulation is running very well. I would also like to ask that you take note of the work being done at the Human Resource Center under the leadership of Jackie Martinez, Senior Citizens Program Director, and her staff. They deliver nearly 25,000 meals and 12,000 congregate nutrition program meals. They oversee a variety of other vital services for our senior population and maintain strong partnerships with the healthcare industry. Our capable Chief of Police, Steve Granton, informed us of a reported trespassing incident at the Village of Greenport property involving 3 fishermen. They were county residents and could have been fishing at a county park just to the west. In response to that, I have asked Gwen Schroeder, a government liaison, to work with John Sipnowski, our land management coordinator, to produce a map of beach access in town and a narrative explaining who is permitted to use the beaches and what access points. We are blessed with beautiful beach access, which is no accident. It exists because of the foresight, planning, and efforts of boards and community members, both past and present, as well as the water quality work undertaken by the town board, highway department, and town engineer, to ensure that we can swim every day and raise and harvest shellfish. We need residents and guests alike to know where they can access our clean waterways. The map that will be generated and the narrative will provide that information. It will be incorporated into beach permit sales and used to educate everyone about their opportunities available to them. This forum is an excellent opportunity for the residents to learn about town government. While I believe the local media provides strong coverage, some topics receive significant attention while other efforts in town remain under the radar. Many initiatives carried out quietly by town officials and employees, efforts that keep the town functioning, go unnoticed by many. Yet it is these efforts that truly serve the public. The topics that are covered by the local media are covered well. But last year there was an effort made by Councilman Mealy and Town Clerk Dennis Noncaro to form a communications committee. This year, Councilwoman Sue spearheaded the effort, forming a task force, developing a survey to see where the town communicates well and where we need to do better. This will now be a standing committee to get more information out to the public at greater detail. It is my goal over the past 2.5 years to simplify process, coordinate efforts, and untangle problems. These efforts will never be widely known because things simply work better. Right to farm laws, immigration enforcement responsibilities, the fate of Plum Island, the proposed Suffolk County water pipe, the USGS groundwater study, deer management, aircraft noise often make the news. But there is far more that the town workforce does every day to make Southold town the town it is, the one that we live in and enjoy. So please read through the packet of all the information. The department heads worked really hard to put all this information together. This is the work that they do every day to serve the public, and they do it very well, and they work together very well. And all of this is in Southold. Finally, I want to thank the town board for their hard work and continued commitment to making our town a better place and preserving the quality of life we all enjoy. Thank you again to all the dedicated, hardworking employees. I only mentioned a few, but they're all been a pleasure to work with, and they work well across all levels of government. The service and professionalism that they provide are essential to everything we accomplish as a community. I want to thank my wife Mary, my 3 children Nick, Colleen, and Kim, and our 9 grandchildren who provide continuous support and inspiration. Thank you to my very capable staff, Lauren Standish and Michelle Tomaszewski, and Deputy Supervisor John Stipe, for keeping the office organized every day in every way, enabling the collaboration and communication with all town departments and other municipal partners. Special thanks to Government Liaison Gwen Schroeder, who is leaving public service after 13 years. Thank you to all of the residents who value the town so deeply that they not only offer thoughtful input, but also volunteer their time to serve on our many committees. This town is not an accident. Decades of planning and hard decisions have shaped what we are today. I will continue to work for you, with everyone, to retain the character of our town and our town as a community. Thank you.
that you listed at the end of your statement, are those in the order of priority? The
They're
right to farm laws was the first one.
No, we have a lot of balls in the air, so they're all being worked on. But those are ones that are really well covered by the media, and I really wanted to highlight some of the efforts that are done by everyday employees every day in the offices that keep the wheels turning in town government. When they turn well, nobody notices because everything works smoothly. So these things they're all priorities and they're all being worked on. Ma'am.
I've read in the paper about town hall meetings where the issue of local police vis-a-vis ICE agents has been discussed, and I'm wondering, is there a policy that has been decided upon?
Yes, thank you. So that was the topic of a special work session 2 weeks ago, and then it was also the topic of our work session on Tuesday. So the town board has decided that we're asking the Chief of Police, Steve Bratton, to work out a procedure and a policy for dealing with other outside agencies and jurisdictions, all outside agencies and jurisdictions. And also, we're trying to set up a communication protocol so that the police chief can notify the supervisor, and the supervisor can notify the mayor and the schools and the hospitals, etc. And we're working on that protocol, and the chief and the attorney's office are working on that protocol. And we have on the town board Dr. Ann Smith, who was the superintendent of schools. And she lends a lot of wisdom to that because we want to make sure that if there's something that the public needs to be notified about, that it's verified. Because once the schools go into some lockdown protocol, and they have that because of other school safety concerns, once they go into that lockdown protocol, it affects not only the students, but all the parents. So we want to make sure anything that we receive is verified before we pass it on to the public. So that protocol will be worked on, and hopefully we'll have a policy decision by the next meeting.
I think the fear is that you could go through this verification process, whoever else has to be notified. By this time, ICE will have been and gone. So there isn't, it's a time factor.
But we can't control the situation. When any outside, law enforcement agency comes into town, they don't necessarily notify the local police department. So we get, there was that one immigration enforcement operation in Greenport this winter. The police department never received a call. So they need to receive a call in order to respond. But they respond. There was concern this past weekend, and if anyone went into to Greenport to see that big Coast Guard ship, it was really something to see. There were Department of Homeland Security officers all around the ship, and as their proper protocol for safety, when that ship comes into port, there's Homeland Security there to make sure that there's nothing going on around it. But so we got a call about that. Who is that law enforcement? And so we need to know, we need to make that distinction before we make a call on to schools or hospitals or anyone else we should be notified.
Can you repeat the questions?
I'm sorry, by the chief. The chief would start with the chief of police. Yes. And I'm sorry, the chief of police is the head of emergency management. So the emergency management used to reside in a different department. And when I started, it said, the police department has all the right connections in emergency management with Summit County. They have all the right communication skills and equipment. And so emergency management now resides within the police department. It's a very important part of what we do. I hope nothing we ever plan for, we need to implement. But if something bad does happen, we feel like we're prepared.
It's very encouraging that the cell tower process is moving forward. Is there any date or when you think that it'll actually be constructed and functioning?
Sure. So years ago, when I looked up the date today, and thank you for that question. It was unsolicited, believe me. So,
it's the same question all the time.
Well, it's,
Can you repeat the
two-
question?
the question is, what about the cell tower code and when will our cell service be improved? So in 2009, I was on the town board as a town councilman. And the cell service problem came up, this is 2009, believe it or not, there was a problem with cell service. And so we passed an amendment to the 1997 cell tower law in 2009 that allowed for a priority of cell towers on town-owned property, because if Brian Mealy puts up a cell tower, he's gonna get, I don't wanna single anyone out, but I'll use Brian. If he puts up a cell tower, he's gonna get the benefit, but if we put one up on town property, all the taxpayers get the benefit. So we wanna have, and that was the whole purpose of hiring this consultant, because if I put one up next to Brian's, it's not gonna do any good as far as coverage or service goes. So this consultant was able to tell us which areas of town are underserved with cell phone service. And those areas are the ones that we really want to be able to permit new towers. There was also a problem in the old code with a height restriction. They have to be high enough to work. It's physics. It's not an aesthetic issue. It's simply physics. So if the cell tower is too low, and it's not gonna provide the right service. So in 2009, we passed an amendment to the law, and then I went on to become a county legislator in 2013. Someone approached the town, they wanted to put a cell tower up on town property. The town board at the time rebuffed that effort and said the neighbor got the cell tower. So we lost an opportunity in, I think, 2014 to put a cell tower up on town property. So now we've revisited that with this consultant, and the new law says that the cell towers have to go where they're going to be effective. Those areas, we have a map, those areas are marked out. And also the height restrictions are pretty much waived, because they have to be, the industry has to tell us how high they have to be. So we can dictate where they have to go based on coverage, and then they're gonna help us with a final height. We have a number of fire departments that are looking at this, and we're encouraging those locations because they also have a benefit to the community if they host those.
So when is this process, do you think, will be completed and the towers will be up?
So we passed the code, we've enabled that process to take place with the height and with the locations. Right now, we are doing outreach with the carriers to make sure that they know that this process is in place and there's options available. I mean, it's not overnight, we just passed, it took well over a year to pass the code.
Yes.
And to get it done correctly, hopefully get it done correctly without any more amendments. But there are gaps, and we are talking about, working with the fire departments, the fire districts.
Thank you.
Hi, just in connection with that, I just want to say thank you, because as you said earlier, sometimes we don't even celebrate the good things that happen quietly. And there is a huge cell tower that has been turned on behind Albertsons. And now, actually, for the first time ever, there's actually Verizon cell service on Main Street in Southold Hamlet. And like, what a big deal that is. And so I just want to say, and I know there's some other carriers on there too. So I want to say, yes, thank you for changing the rules. And I know it takes a really long time, but it's a huge deal that there's actually better cell service.
Thank you, it did take a long time.
Thanks.
Welcome, Troy.
Do you have any thoughts on what some people might call a parking crisis in the Supreme Court? I realize that's not your jurisdiction, but your constituents and businesses are certainly affected by it.
It's something I haven't followed, that is Greenport Village jurisdiction. We've been, I'm sorry, the question was about new parking regulations in Greenport Village. So I don't, and we've been working closely with the village now on CPF and hopefully housing issues. We haven't worked with them on parking issues because that is something that they've got to figure out for themselves. We don't have anything like that in Southold town. Now, I know they have a business improvement district that's, I'm sure, weighing in, so I'm not sure where that ends. We were in Greenport, Mary and I went the other night to see the Coast Guard ship come in, but we parked in the municipal lot. So we didn't encounter the parking restrictions. So I don't know where that ends, honestly.
Question here? Well, one thing maybe the town of Southold could do would be to, put up a notice on the website or something about where you can park in Greenport without getting a ticket. I know a lot of people are afraid to go into town.
Well, I hope they, and to that point, I hope they do work that out, because it is a wonderful village. We want people to go there.
I thank you for your speech tonight. You covered a lot of ground. But a couple of things that I think you missed. This morning, I went on my daily walk. First person I met said, oh yeah, it was crazy pouring last night. When I go down to the beach, the path to the beach was washed out. But I could still navigate the path. But I knew that when I walked down the beach and tried to get back on the road, I would have trouble. And sure enough, there was a 4-foot cliff at the end of the road. I don't have a question, ma'am. I have some comments, some observations. If you don't want to hear them, then...
No, we have to be, when you think about the Enterprise Task Force of Southold Town, and they say civility and respect. So let's all be...
I called the police and the highway department. They came down there and put up barriers. But I've been working with them for years, trying to get the highway department to put up a little pocket park at the end of the road to stop. They use storm drains. Storm drains aren't working. We keep doing a lot of things that aren't working. Communications. Last month we had an incident where we had smoke. It didn't come from Canada only. Some of it came from Canada, but a lot of it came from Minnesota, upper northern Minnesota. My sister lives there. So I was very aware of what was happening. But when I called the police and said, we have an unhealthy air quality in town, people should not be outside and shouldn't be working outside. We should put up a notice on the emergency alert system, which we have. First I was told, that's not our job, you have to talk to the supervisor. I said, this is a weekend, the town hall is closed. Eventually I did meet with you the next week and you put up something from the county. But the communications committee, with all due respect, we have a website, we have no webmaster, we have a laserfiche system with people putting information in there from all different departments, but nobody overseeing the whole collective deal as to how it works or doesn't work.
All right, so the other people might have questions though, so.
Well, I'd like to, what are we gonna do about these companies that are coming into town and starting industrial ranches, which are gonna pollute our water and air, and we're just saying that, oh, they're farmers, they can do whatever they want. How are we gonna protect the public water and air and not to, I'll end with the particular company I'm thinking of. It's named by the address of the company. They refuse to identify who they are. They also are starting a type of ranch. It's really a ranch because they're producing eggs. Of course they're using chickens, but they don't want to talk about the chickens. All they care about is the eggs. And we are not doing anything to even find out what their plans are, let alone to protect the people who, the town of Southold paid twice as much for the development rights on the property as the company paid for the land which they're allowed to use only for farming. And I'm a big fan of farming, supporter of farming, I've done farming, but we have to be careful because farms can be very dangerous and they can hurt the public.
So I spoke this morning, we had rain in Cutchogue. I spoke to the both the town engineer and highway superintendent. They both do an excellent job of containing stormwater runoff. There's a program, an unfunded state mandate, the MS4 program, that the town had to comply with. We were already doing drainage work, and the reason we started doing drainage work is because of the shellfish opportunities that we didn't want to have our creeks closed and bays closed. Suffolk County Health Department sends out notices all summer long, all up and down the island. There's a lot of beach closures, and it's because of stormwater runoff. And I know either tonight or tomorrow, I'm gonna get a notice that there's gonna be well over 60 beaches in Suffolk County closed, because those communities haven't done their stormwater work. In Southold, we've done it for decades, and that's why you can go to the beach and you can swim. So this is and they have a list, and they just keep going through the list. The town is dedicated, administration after administration, after town board member after town board member. They've all been dedicated for decades to spend the money on stormwater remediation. The problem at Pequash is very real. I know the highway department is gonna go down there with sand just to cover everything up and make it accessible again today. That's been a real problem. We've been addressing all the regulated outfalls, trying to get out of this unfunded state mandate MS4 program, and that's been a lot of our focus. There's a couple problem spots like that that are more challenging, and in a 3-inch rainfall, it's very difficult to contain. But thank you for bringing the drainage up, because it is a success story for the town. As far as Laserfish goes, there was a long delay. Once we had our computer hacked around Thanksgiving, just before Thanksgiving, Laserfish was down for a long time, for months. And it's the way people access all town records. And I know it was 7 months, it was terrible inconvenience. And here's why, because the IT department, and this is above my head when the IT department speaks, but in my limited understanding, they wanted to make sure that we had a secure system. So when Laserfish, when the information is in there, it is not connected to the other town infrastructure and servers. And that's the reason that it took so long to get Laserfish restored. We wanted to put a belt and suspenders on it so that we wouldn't be in the position that we were in before, beforehand. And we didn't lose any data because of the efforts of IT, but still, we're trying to maintain that level of security. And I don't know if people know, thank you for bringing that up though, because I don't know if people know that just late last week, there was an email going out, a real scam, and it had the town logo on it, and it had the town employees' names on it, and it was a bill for people who were in the process of ZBA applications. So you were getting a bill that had the name of town logo, and people were like, do I really owe that money? Because it looked very real. Things are all over the place, and I just urge everyone to be careful. I know Police Chief Steve Grattan holds scam programs and cyber programs to try to protect people from getting involved in these, but this is ongoing, and it's very sophisticated to be able to use the town employees' names. And as far as the agriculture goes, I think we have to be careful in this country if we overregulate agriculture. Food doesn't come from a truck, and it doesn't come from a bank, and it doesn't come from a pantry. Food's grown on a farm. And if you don't let farmers farm, we're gonna have a problem with food security for everybody in this country. We have to be very careful in managing that resource of agriculture, such as it is, because it's a matter really of national security.
We don't even know who the farmer is. We don't have the identity of the farmer.
Yes, sir.
All right, I know you spend a lot of money on infrastructure. The roads are really good and much better than they've been in a long time. But one of my pet peeves is when I drive down Route 48 and you replaced all the telephone poles. They're at angles like this, they're low wires, whoever supervised the contract on doing that should get them back to remedy the poor quality of the
Please
work.
repeat the question.
Thank you. So the question is about the quality of the poles in Route 48 and the different angles that they are standing at
And low wires.
and the low wires. So we do have a good representative from PSE&G. I think in the past, a lot of restoration money, and they've done a good job of replacing a lot of those poles. If you have anything in particular, please let me know and I'll pass that on. They've been pretty responsive.
Do you have any insight at all as to where we might be headed with the deer issue?
So we actually had a deer management, and Alexis Seuss is our liaison to the deer committee. We made an effort, was it 3 or 4 years ago, with New York State, because New York State regulates the deer population. The local DEC, I have to say, for years, and we've had a deer management committee for 20 years, and we have a very good committee, very active committee. They've worked very closely with our local DEC. They will go as far as they're allowed to, because this is regulated by New York State. We have encouraged them for years, let Southold Town regulate the deer population, because we'll never, I mean, I think we're more deer are killed on the roads than by hunters. And if you see them in the field or in the woods that have been hit by cars, it's way worse than being hunted, because they're crippled and they are really in distress. The Deer Management Committee, I don't know what they acted on today, but they are trying, I know they're trying to work with New York State again for them to give us exemptions to work.
Emergency permits.
And I've worked with, try to work, well, yes, we are allowed to hunt on town-owned property, and we are allowed to hunt under different circumstances. Part of the problem is that it takes a lot of time to go out in the woods to hunt. And a lot of people who are young, they're working, they don't have the time. And then, of course, when you get a deer, it takes a lot of work. That's when the work really starts. There's also, if you get the retired population out here, it's hard to get people up in a tree to go like this. It is work, it is hard. New York State allowed for crossbows, except in Suffolk County. So it took us years, because that would allow access to a lot more people to be able to hunt. It took us years to get that changed, but the setbacks are still too far. So for archery, we got them to reduce the setbacks to 150 feet. For crossbows, we need to do the same to get more people access to hunting. Probably 20 years ago, if you go behind the rec center in Peconic, there's a back of a refrigerated truck, that's for deer. So if you're having a successful hunt, you can bring your field dress deer there, and put it in the cooler, and then anyone from the community can come and take it. That means also being donated, and the problem with that is, it's okay to donate venison, but it's not okay to sell it.
Right.
And so we're trying to have the law change so you can sell the venison, and it would be like a cottage industry, and it would encourage more people to get out in the field.
But there are professional hunters who are willing and interested and able to come into Southold Town if they would just be given access.
The problem with that is, well, there's two things. One, we press the DEC to be able to, as a town, have a bounty on deer. Because then again, you'd be able to incentivize hunting. As far as the professional hunters go, and I sat on the Brookhaven National Lab, CAC, for years, and they have professionals, they're federal facilities, so they have professionals that come in, and they know where the deer are, and they bait them, and they thin the herd every year. And it's an expensive proposition, but it's very effective the way they do it. Southold Town is so spread out, the deer population is so spread out, and there's so many people there, that it makes that sort of activity very difficult. So there are some communities that have gotten together, and they're allowing for hunters to come in and work the properties, and if they have signed permission from neighbors, they can hunt a lot closer. That's been fairly effective, but overall, I think we have to take out like 60% of the deer population every year just to maintain the population.
We're losing the war.
We are. No, there's no question. We know that it's a huge problem. I've appealed to Suffolk County Health Department for years because of the ticks and the tick-borne illnesses. Consider this a health emergency. That hasn't been effective. We spend, with Suffolk County Control, an awful lot of money spraying for and treating for mosquitoes. And I know a lot more people that have tick-borne illnesses than West Nile disease. And so, I mean, that's one place that we're really, I think, not fulfilling the public need, is to address it from the health perspective. Plus, all the natural lands, we preserve thousands of acres of open space between us and Suffolk County. And those natural lands are being destroyed because the deer won't let any young trees regenerate.
The understory is gone.
So thank you for that. And I know Alexa she's working on a hunter access program and a hunter training program to encourage more people. It's a good initiative to encourage more people to get out in the field, letting people know this is where you can access, these are the rules, these are people that can help you get started on that. And it's, honestly, we raised our children on venison. Mary ground a lot of venison in the kitchen, and we froze a lot of meat, so it's a good source of protein, it really is. Yes, ma'am.
I would like some clarification on the situation with ICE. You mentioned that police do not get notification, which is not surprising. How might they be notified, and would be willing to respond based on public calls?
So they're a federal authority. It's just like we have the state troopers come out, and the county sheriffs come out, New York State DEC. We have a lot of outside law enforcement agencies coming to town. They don't necessarily, we also have operations like the East End Drug Task Force, and they come out and they do an operation. They're operating out here all the time. We don't know they're operating because they don't want anyone to know they're operating. So a lot of these enforcement agencies will come into town. They don't want to notify anyone because they've got their own agenda and their own operations. So they're not necessarily going to notify anyone when they come in. So that's a federal issue that you have to take up, you know, at the federal level of how they manage their own policies and laws.
So my question is, how would then the police be able to respond?
Well, they respond. If the police get a call, then they can verify if in fact something happened. And then Trustee Doherty Johnson in Greenport Village, she saw someone driving around the neighborhood and she stopped them and said, "What are you doing here?" And they had a card that said something like the guy said he's patrolling the neighborhood, and he had a card, something of volunteer, and it was an odd scenario. She called the police. This guy left Greenport. She called the police. The police responded by finding, because she had the plate number of the vehicle ID. They pulled the fellow over in Manitowoc because you don't know who's driving around, and it's good that the police could stop someone. They stopped him. They verified that he wasn't a threat to the community. That in fact the card he was carrying was part of some actual organization, and you know there was no problem, and he was not impersonating a police officer. So all those things happened just this year. So we're concerned that, you know, we want to make sure those things can continue to happen because the police should be able to respond to something like that. Yes, sir.
What is the position of the town board as respects to the increase in the water supply from Suffolk County water coming east?
Sure. So that's been a big deal. There's one water supplier in town on the mainland, and then we also have our own water supply, a private water company in Fisher's Island. So as far as the water supply goes, in response to that, because this has been tried before, so the water company supplies about, I think, a little over half the homes. There's still a lot of private wells in Southold town. As far as the water quantity goes, we've been working, and I'm on a water protection group working with USGS and New York State DEC that regulates placement of wells. And they're doing a study of groundwater on Long Island. So the USGS, very good scientists, they started their groundwater study in western Long Island because that's where the aquifer was the worst. Because western Long Island is sewered, all the water gets pumped up, and as sewage waste gets piped out to the ocean. They're piping so much treated sewage waste into the ocean that there's not enough rainfall to replenish the aquifer. So their aquifer is in trouble because they just keep pumping it overboard. So when you get further east like this, the question is, how much groundwater is there, and is it changing over time based on use? And then it brings up the agriculture point, and if you think of, go back 50, 60 years when everything was a potato field, and every farm had a well, every farm irrigated all summer, it was far from automatic. You had to irrigate, you had to pay the help, and you had to pay for the fuel, and then you had to fix the equipment. So you irrigated when you had to irrigate. But these wells ran all summer long, and there was never any problem. There was a lot of water used, but it's very seasonal. What happened is, and the Suffolk County Water Authority has confirmed this, 70% of their water use that they pump and they treat gets used on lawn irrigation. 70%. So they're having trouble supplying that amount of treated water for people just to live, because a lot of it's being used on the lawn. We passed a law last year trying to get some conservation efforts, and with the help of the the regional lawn irrigation installers, with the support of them, because they want to manage the resource also. We passed a law that you have to have a rain sensor. When you got 3 inches of rain last night, I wonder how many automatic systems were pumping water this morning. And that's the problem. We're wasting so much water. So we need to do some conservation efforts. So USGS reached out to me last year, and they said, look, we need to put a well in Orient, because we've got a well system throughout the North Fork, but we have nothing in Orient. We'd like to know where the saltwater interface is. We'd like to know what the conditions of the groundwater are. Now, Orient Association, in response to this proposed water pipe, hired an engineering firm, and they spent tens of thousands of dollars of their own money to try to figure out their water resource in Orient. They did a really good job. So I called the school, Oyster Pond School. They were very happy to host the USGS putting a well on school property. It was great for the children because it was like a science experiment for them. They got to learn a lot about geology and water use and whatnot. I hope you're not sorry to ask this question. So they drilled down over 600 feet in Orient, and they found, what they discovered was there's quite a bit of fresh water, and then there's a confining clay layer. Under the whole North Fork here in Southold town, there's a confining clay layer, and we've known about this for decades, and it's probably 50 or 60 feet thick, and it keeps the salt water from coming up. So we've got this fresh water there that's on top of it. It's a shallow aquifer. Anything we put in that aquifer, through any land use, goes right into that water. But there's water there, and there's quite a bit of water there. So because of all the drainage work that we've done in town, we got 3 inches of rain last night. That all recharged the aquifer. It didn't get piped into except at the end of peak wash, it didn't get piped into the bay or the creeks. So there.
How potable is it?
Well, it depends who you ask. The contaminant of emerging concern, PFAS, it was used widely, and it was a firefighting foam. But if you have a Teflon pan, it's in that, so you can cook your food in it. If you use dental floss, it's in that. If you use Teflon tape for your plumbing, it's in that. If you have any fire retardant on your rug or your clothes or your chairs, it's in that. It's still widely used. There's a just recent analysis done. It's in rainwater in most of the world, higher than New York State standards, and they're testing it down to parts per trillion. And to put it in perspective, 1 part per trillion is 1 second in 32,000 years. And they're testing it down to levels that low. So this is what, so it's hard to figure about, you're worried about your health, of course, and it's very hard to put all those things together and to kind of rationalize. So when you ask a simple question like how's the water supply, it's a very complicated answer. We are still waiting for USGS to complete their study in Southold town. They work very closely with Riverhead, who has their own water plant. They have a very good water operator there and operator there. So they're very concerned about the water, and they do a very good job because they're scientists. They're not worried about any kind of municipal boundaries. They want to give us the right information. Well, I don't see any other hands, and there's no Zoom, so.
I want to go back to the deer and the tick situation, and I know that somebody.
You have to speak a little louder.
Okay.
It's the deer and the tick question.
All right, deer and ticks. So I know that some people are interested in this 4-poster tick.
Sure.
And that people in, it's been successful in Shelter Island and in some very rich areas. And I've read a lot of controversial information about it. It seems as if it's attracting the deer, you're feeding them, and it just doesn't seem right. So can you tell us what do you think about that
Yes,
for
thank you.
us?
So by the, thank you, and I did not ask for that question to be asked, but thank you, Tom, for another good one. So the 4-poster system was developed to try to treat the deer's head goes into the feeder, and the neck gets treated with an insecticide that's supposed to kill the ticks, and it reduces the tick population on the deer. The problem with that, and I spoke to the mayor of North Haven about it, because they have a deer management program there. They have a very confined area in North Haven. I spoke to him the other day about it. And Chris said that it's costing them over $200,000 a year. And the estimate for Southold would be about $2 million a year to run that program because of our geography. And what you do is you don't help with the deer population at all. You do reduce the tick population in a very small area around the feeder, but all you do is concentrate the deer, and you have more deer because you're feeding them. And you also feeds other wildlife that you really probably don't want to feed. So it's something that the Deer Committee looked at years ago and did all their homework with and dismissed as not effective.
I agree.
Well, thank you everyone so much for coming.
Thank you.